Good. All right. So, hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Career Discovery series on cybersecurity. My name is Caroline Chang. I am Assistant Director of Career Education here at the Division Career Pathways. I will be your host and MC tonight. Joining me is Sam Hansen, who
Hello.
is, hello, and who is the Internal Vice President of a cybersecurity club here at UCI called Cyber at UCI. And Sam will be helping to moderate today's panel. So thank you, Sam. Before we kick things off, I wanted to share a little bit about our format for today. So for the next 45 minutes or so, we will have a moderated Q&A portion. Feel free to share and submit any questions you have into the chat box. After that, we will then have an opportunity for you all to network and meet with each of our panelists in Zoom breakout rooms. So I really encourage you all to stay for that. A huge opportunity to be able to have that time with them. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guests for today, Rachel Bierner, who is Head of Cloud Security at Wells Fargo, Ryan Blanchard, Cyber Software Engineer at Northrop Grumman, Kathy Lay, Deputy Chief Information Security Officer with Skyworks Solutions, Ryan Krause, Managing Security Consultant at NetSPI. So thank you all for being here today. I'm very excited to hear from you all, learn from you all. And so I will pass it over to Sam to kick things off with our first question.
All right, thank you. If you have any questions generally for our panelists, please put them in chat. If you have any questions specifically for panelists, could you please wait and maybe ask those in the breakout rooms? We'd like to try and keep it to a general questions here. So I think start with the first question is for each of you, could you introduce yourself a bit more and maybe talk about what your current position is, and maybe a brief overview of what you actually do at the position? I don't know who would like to go first.
I'm happy to start.
Oh, go ahead.
Just jump in. Hi, I'm Rachel Bierner. I am Head of Cloud Security at Wells Fargo. Really happy to be here talking with you guys and sitting alongside my co-panelists here. So as Head of Cloud Security, I'm responsible for securing our company's digital infrastructure strategy, which means that we are moving our technology assets to the cloud. We're actually doing a hybrid cloud and multi-cloud approach there. And so for those who might not know what the cloud is, simply put, it's accessing computing resources over the internet. You probably use cloud services when you're using email like Gmail or a host of other apps that you use either on your phone or online. And so the company, along with other companies, are kind of leveraging cloud services as part of their infrastructure strategies, and we are in that boat as well. What I do as Head of Cloud Security, honestly, I think it's a lot of corralling. I get a lot of our stakeholders, team members, partners kind of aligned on problems we need to solve, implementing solutions, figuring out our path forward, but all in the name of ensuring that we are secure in our cloud journey. That's me.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kathy. I am in charge of information security, compliance, data protection, and a bit of privacy at my company. So I work for a company called Skyworks Solutions. We are a large semiconductor manufacturer. In fact, we are located right on the edge of the UCI campuses. So I think we're closer to your medical and biomedical science buildings, but we're right there. So if you want to stop by and say hi, feel free. But yeah, we, as part of my responsibilities, I'm in charge of ensuring that, number one, we're compliant with all of our regulatory obligations. So we're subject to various privacy regulations. We're subject to different agency regulations. And so I'm in charge of making sure we're compliant with that, along with some of the security requirements that our customers required to comply with. I also in charge of ensuring that we follow best practices. I develop our policies, procedures, and standards on what type of controls we need to put in place. And then I also make a large portion of my job is to ensure that we manage our risks, our security risks within the organization to the level that our board of directors has determined is the level of risk that they're willing to take. So it's what's called our risk tolerance. And so I'm in charge of that. So that extends internally as well as to all of our third parties as well. On a day-to-day basis, my job could entail anything from developing our ransomware response plan to meeting with regulators, to customers, to handling audits, to answering cybersecurity, or ensuring that we get cybersecurity insurance, to being a consultant on some of the implementations that we have in-house to determine if something is secure, what type of considerations, what type of risks we need to be aware of. So in a nutshell, that's it. But a big portion, I'm sure with everybody here, half of our job is education, educating the end user community, and then also trying to build that collaborative environment so that everybody works toward the same goal. So that's me.
Yeah, I can jump in. I'm Ryan Blanchard. I'm a cyber software engineer for Northrop Grumman. So Northrop Grumman is a defense contractor. So our primary work is for the United States government. And most of what we do is advancing the cyber mission of different constituents within the US government. A lot of what we do is classified and controlled. So I'm not able to talk about specific details. So it might seem vague at times, and I apologize ahead of time for that. But I'm going to try to say what I can, but obviously stay within the bounds of the law. Most of what I do is probably about 70% writing software and 30% reverse engineering, which is definitely my favorite part. Actually getting to tear apart software and hardware and figure out how it works. We also present and demo our work to different customers and stuff like that. But it's mostly software. It's mostly reverse engineering is what I do on a day-to-day basis.
All right. My name is Ryan Krause. I'm a managing security consultant at a cybersecurity consulting firm called NetSPI. Primarily what we do is called penetration testing. So it's our responsibility to take a look at companies' servers, their applications, their networks, their devices, even their people at times, and treat their organization as if we were an attacker attacking them, and figure out where the gaps are, figure out what their overall risk tolerance is or their risk exposure is to various cybersecurity threats. I've got kind of a three-prong job duties, I guess. I've got a small team that I manage, so I'm responsible for the day-to-day operation for those folks, guiding them in their overall project execution, and then also their just career development plan at NetSPI. I do my own application security and external penetration testing as well at NetSPI, and I currently own the external penetration testing service line there. So I'm also responsible for the execution and delivery of that service and everything that's underneath it. And then the kind of third piece of what I do is instruction in a program called NetSPI University, where we target new grads and kind of career shift people who are looking for like a new career to get into, who are interested in cybersecurity. We bring them in, train them to be web application cybersecurity consultants, and put them through a structured kind of learning program to get them into the industry. So it's kind of my job duties in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. For our next question, we want to kind of see now obviously Ryan Blanchard, you just graduated, but the rest of you have kind of been in the industry for a little while. Like, what career path has actually led you to your current position at your companies? I think going in the same order is probably the easiest.
Sure. So I actually had a pretty circuitous path to where I am today. I was a international economics major at UCLA and had kind of zero intent to go into technology. It just wasn't on my radar, but somehow ended up doing technology consulting, management consulting coming out of college. Which ultimately led to me joining a mortgage company, a financial services company that ended up getting bought by Bank of America, where I was for 19 years, so a very, very long time. And during my time there, you know, I started in kind of an individual contributor position, but kind of moved very quickly into management positions and leadership positions, and ultimately kind of worked through different roles leading technology teams and really kind of all aspects of the technology life cycle when you think about both like application software development engineering, as well as governance functions, production control functions, project management, service delivery, really kind of ran the gamut. About 8 years ago, I was looking to do something a little bit different and worked within my network in the company, and ended up moving into our global information security organization, cybersecurity organization. Was able to kind of bring skills that I had built in my technology roles and bring it into this position in the cybersecurity organization. Then about 4 years ago, again, building upon these skills, now I moved into a cloud security role, and really kind of the common theme across these positions, particularly over the last 10 plus years, has been that I build programs, right? So I kind of pull together, there's a need, we need a cloud security program. What does that mean? We need to bring people together. We need to bring strategies together, technologies together, risk management, and all of that. And so that's what I do. And I brought that into my current position at Wells Fargo, also leading cloud security here. And so while kind of you can draw that line all the way through, took a lot of different positions along the way, but again, just that common theme throughout my career of building technology and security programs. That's what I do.
Hi, so I actually graduated with a psychobiology degree from UCLA. And so from there, I worked a couple of years before I went back to get my MBA. And from my MBA, when I came out, I first started at KPMG as a real estate consultant. But as we all know, the bread and butter of a lot of the big fours is audit. So I ended up in their, what they call the information risk management practice, where I was basically an external IT auditor for a few years. And so a lot of that was security testing as part of Sarbanes-Oxley 404. This is when Sarbanes-Oxley was first coming out. And then from there, I moved on to internal audit, and from there into IT compliance, and from there into information security. So it's been, I would say I've been doing security for probably over 20 years, but it's from all the different angles of external audit, internal audit, IT compliance, and now information security. And so that's really how I got to where I am today. And so as I moved into information security, I started to move up the ranks, take on more leadership role to where I am today.
I don't have much of a career path. Are we skipping me?
Not necessarily. If you want to say anything about.
Sure. I mean, I can talk about my education at least. I have a strong background in computer networks, and then I went to before even going to UCI, I had taken a lot of classes in computer networks, and for the longest time, I wanted to be a penetration tester actually. But I went to UCI and really started getting my CS degree, really started writing software and really started to fall in love with that. And I did specialize in network systems at UCI within my CS degree. So a lot of what I do now is related to computer networking heavily.
Yeah, I took a little bit of a scenic route into security. I went to UCI 17, 18 years ago and came out with my computer engineering degree. So, at the time back then, there really wasn't a lot of security focus in any of UCI's curriculum. So there were no security classes, there were no security clubs on campus. There really wasn't a focus back then. So like a lot of my peers, I was looking for software development jobs coming out of school. So I went down the web development route for several years. I worked for Western Digital and Comcast, doing web development for them, and then ultimately landed at a company called Beyond Trust. They're a privileged access management company now, but back when I was working with them, they also had their hand in vulnerability assessments, vulnerability scanners, things like that. So I was doing web development for them at the time, but it was at a security company, and I think I started to just tangentially pick up a lot of security knowledge working there. And eventually our role opened up in that company that was for basically managing the group of people who were responsible for writing the security audits or security checks for this vulnerability scanner that they were writing at the time. So I took that role, started to learn a lot about security vulnerabilities, how they operate, how exploitation of vulnerabilities works. I just got really hooked and interested in it, and kind of from there just built up a lot of security based knowledge. And then went to HP after that as a cybersecurity consultant for HP for a while before landing at NetSPI a little over 6 years ago to focus more full-time on pen testing.
Yeah, awesome. I wanted to say we still don't have very many cybersecurity courses at UCI. It's pretty much just the club now trying to fill that gap. But yeah, so I know Ryan went into this, but as like, what are some of the most important skills that you use in your job, and like how did you actually start developing those while you were in college or in school?
You want to go in the same order? You want to just keep at it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, same order throughout will probably be the easiest.
All right, so I'll go then. I'll say definitely soft skills become more and more important as you move kind of up your career into leadership positions, or even just positions where you have to coordinate, influence, whatnot. There are very few jobs that you get to work in isolation. So hard skills, technical skills, those are pretty teachable, learnable. Soft skills really take experience, I think. And so I think, in my role, what's particularly important is really kind of understanding risk, but also understanding people's needs. So, at a very large and complex company like the one I'm in, you can try to manage risk down to nothing, but get no business done, no technology work done. You can kind of, stop everything, right? The safest thing to do is to not move, but that's not the way the world works. And so I think being able to kind of balance risk, but also, and along the way, just really understanding people's needs and understanding kind of how to serve those needs, even in a risk and security function like we're in. And communicating back that you understand those needs and that you can serve those needs. And so I think just the soft skills, and if I think about how I started developing that skill, I mean, I could probably go all the way back to like when I was babysitting as a teenager, and definitely into my first job in high school. I worked at a little bookstore / coffee shop, but kind of customer service, right? But those skills have been built for, really throughout all of my quote unquote professional interactions, just from the time I started to work. And I think just building upon that, every conflict I've had to have or work through, those have all been skill building experiences. Not only the wins, I guess what I'm saying, but also kind of the failures or the setbacks have really been opportunities to learn and build those soft skills. So I think that's a key call out for me.
So I would agree with Rachel. Like she said, I think when you first start out, the technical skills matter a lot because you have to prove what you know. But at the same time, when I interview people that are straight out of college, or I think a lot of the soft skills weigh just as much to me as the hard skills, because the soft skills is what's gonna, I guess, elevate you in any position. It's more important to me for you to know how to communicate and work with other people and how to deal with conflict and all those attributes, because the hard skills, the technical skills, how to do something, I can teach that. It's the soft skills that I can't teach as effectively. I can guide, but I think a lot of that is what I look for. And so, like she said, when you first came out, when I first got in this field, I really focused a lot on the technical skills, getting all my various certifications, my CSSP, my CISM, all these technical skills to show that I knew what I was talking about. But as I grew up the management chain, it was more about how do you convey yourself, and what I've really come to is, in the corporate world, everything's about perception, right? You can be doing all this great work in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you're not going to get any visibility, you're not going to get any credit for it. So it's by learning how to work those networks and learning to elevate yourself and speaking up for yourself and learning how to communicate your value to the organization and working not just within your own team, but across functions and across the leadership team, making yourself visible and showing what you have done. That's what's really going to elevate you to where you are. And so I think, as my piece of advice is really to learn to speak up for your, stand up for yourself, and take credit for what you've accomplished.
So I'll go the other route because I'm a little lower on the ladder. But the skill that the people that I most admire at work, what they're able to do is triangulate and problem solve very effectively. They're able to isolate what caused an issue, and they're able to find that very well. I think it's an incredible skill, and the people that are able to do that are definitely the stars of our program. So I have a lot to learn from those people. Just earlier today, we had a memory corruption issue, and anybody who's dealt with anything like that in lower level programming understands how difficult it can be to find what it is that's corrupting something like that. And so the really talented engineers that we have are able to narrow down the cause of that. It really is, it's kind of an art and a skill, because you need and a science, because you need to sort of piece it together. You need to eliminate certain causes and narrow it down. And so it doesn't just apply to debugging or something like that you would think of, but it's a very useful skill for what we do. Our software runs in very abnormal environments with very abnormal constraints. And so it makes it much harder to try to figure out when something goes wrong, what caused it. So the people that I learn the most from tend to be people that are very good at that kind of low level problem solving.
It's a great call out.
Yeah, I mean, everything that was just said was pretty much all my bullet points I had in my head. So I won't sound like a broken record here, but I will add just general critical thinking skill is really undervalued. I think you have to be able to problem solve, and your schooling can only prepare you so much for that, right? You have to learn to step back, look at a problem from a higher level, maybe part it out into manageable pieces and work through that problem. So thinking about these things critically are really important, in the cybersecurity field and others as well. But just you do face very technical and challenging problems, and you can't always just go headfirst into those problems. You really have to isolate them and figure out how to solve them, maybe piece by piece. So just being able to think critically about situations and try to understand it before you go after a solution. Also, that's a big component, is if you don't understand the problem first, you're going to have a hard time solving it. So
I just want to add one thing to that. So, as we go through our career path, there's in cyber, there's different, as you grow up your career path, I want to say that there's some people want to be people managers, right? And so that's where those soft skills really come in. But some people don't want to become people managers. And that's where there are different career paths where in my company, for example, those that don't want to manage people, the way we've been able to elevate people that way is they go down to technical and they become a technical director, but they continue to build upon those technical skills and they're able to elevate and continue to get promoted that way. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be develop those soft skills as much if they don't ever want to manage individuals.
Yeah, awesome. Like going to those skills, like with the technical skills, we our general CS can go into a lot of that. Unfortunately, we're lacking on a lot of cybersecurity specific courses here, but like, what can students do now to kind of get ready for a position in your career area or your profession?
So I actually wear another hat because I'm the co-founder of a nonprofit called Project Cyber, which has a mission to bring more females into the field. And one of the things we talk about with Project Cyber and kind of, you know, what we want to socialize or really help people understand is that cybersecurity is there are a very diverse set of career paths you can go down, right? It is not just pen testing, or it is not just, you know, incident response or forensics, right? There are so many different positions, and some of them are very technical, and some of them are not, or don't have such a reliance on, you know, on being a CS major or computer science major, right? And so I think one of the things that I would recommend is get familiar with the different types of career paths you can pursue in cybersecurity. We have people who have to do kind of create policies and standards and rules for an organization, right? So governance and guidance for how to manage risk. We have people who need to understand how to translate what we do into metrics, right? And reports, and like being able to take very complicated things and get it down to numbers and some sort of measurement. We have people who need to project manage, like get stuff done, help people get stuff done. Now, this is on top of, you know, pen testing and software engineering and forensics and incident response and all of that. So I would say get familiar with the different job profiles, career paths that are in cyber, and then think about how your experiences so far align, right? So if you really love that problem solving, critical thinking, you know, maybe you want to go into cyber forensics. If you're really great at communicating and kind of telling stories, distilling complicated things, then there are career paths for you there. Security awareness and training is such an important thing that we have to do in large organizations. And so just think about that, and then think about how your experiences so far, your internships, your part-time jobs, your club work, how skills that you've built through those experiences apply those, and make sure that those shine when you're interviewing, when you're applying on your resume, in the conversations that you have as you build out your network. I think those are all things that you can be ready to do. Now, of course, there are the technical things you can do, the classes you can take, the certifications you can get. Those are absolutely in the mix as well. But again, I think what I really want to emphasize is there are just a great variety of career paths you can go into in cybersecurity, and go check them out.
So I would agree with everything that Rachel has said. But I think what I'll do is I will add a little bit more context to it. So when I think of cyber, there's probably about 4 different domains. I would say one is what she described as GRC, right? Governance, risk, and compliance. That's where you determine how to manage your cyber, risk management, which is what I talked about earlier. How do you manage your corporate risk? How do you manage your third-party risk? Complying with all different laws, regulation, complying with contracts. Governance is how do you developing the policy, procedure, standards that your company is going to follow. So I think of that as GRC. And I think of the other other vertical I think of is security operations, and that's where you have your red team, your pen test, you have your, your monitoring, your threat hunting, all of that is under security ops. Then you have application security, which can be kind of thought of as product security in some instances where, when you develop an application or a software product, how do you ensure that it's secure and they're not building any vulnerabilities within it? Some of that relates to cloud security as well, but cloud security, depending on what it is, could be either SecOps or application security,
Everything.
right? And then, but there's network security, which could fall under security operations as well. And so there's so many different avenues of security. Like you said, you just have to figure out which one you want to do. I think a great thing that you should be looking for as you consider it is a lot of companies have internships out there for for security analysts. For example, Skyworks had one, and I actually had this amazing intern that worked for me for 6 months. And I had her really work on some really cool projects that were related to privileged access management. She did a little bit of auditing, but there were some really cool projects. She did all of her user awareness training, but there were some cool projects that she really worked on that I think if she ever went into the real world, she'd say, look at, I did all of this. I bet you a lot of your security engineers don't even have this experience, but I've been able to do it. I think that's just looking at internships that are out there are very valuable. As far as certifications go, there are some that are there. For example, ISC2 just came out with like an introductory cybersecurity certification that is relatively inexpensive. I think for a while it was even being offered for free, but you can get some of those basic certifications to prove to the world that you know your cyber stuff, and then you have the credentials to do that. So I think those certifications, the degree requirement, and then just any type of internship that you can go to show that you have some experience will go a long way in helping you get your very first job.
This is where I plug Cyber UCI for you, Sam, because that club was a huge part of me getting a lot of experience. One of the main things that we did was the collegiate cyber defense competition. And that's sort of a red team, blue team, infrastructure security, application security, web security, all in one, competing to try to beat Stanford one of these years. And so it's a lot of fun. You get a lot of experience. And I would definitely recommend that if you're passionate about security, or even if you're new to the whole field, you'll meet people that care about it there, and people that are willing to help you through it and teach you stuff about it there. So it's a great resource if you have if you're curious about it at all, or if you already love it. For me, graduating with a CS degree, I would say it's important to have, CS is so broad, and we're still giving degrees in just computer science. So I would try to find a niche or something within it to also be good at, whether it's artificial intelligence, because even those areas can apply to cybersecurity. So I would find something technically within CS to be good at, to try to make yourself more marketable.
I'll talk kind of more specifically on penetration testing for folks who might be interested in that field. There are a ton of great resources out there for pen testers or people who are learning pen testing skills, where you can go and practice, safely and legally. Hack the Box is a great one. Anybody who's interested in Hack the Box, great place to start. Really big community. They have boxes that you can work on and try to learn new hacking skills. Try Hack Me is another one similar to Hack the Box that has a lot more structured learning paths. Portswigger also has, it's called the Web Security Academy, which is great if you're looking to get into application security. Just really great resources that are all free and just easy to access in a safe environment. So you can really get some hands-on experience doing that kind of stuff, which is a great starting point. We love to see that for people who are coming out of school. Maybe they did go to a college that didn't have a lot of cybersecurity courses or anything, but they supplemented a ton of their knowledge with this extracurricular stuff just because they thought it was fun. We love to see that kind of stuff. get involved with your on-campus groups. So, you know, you've got Sam on the call, right? So the cybersecurity clubs that might be at UCI. I know UCI does CCDC as well now. So that's always a great thing to get involved with. There's community events also that are hosted by organizations like OWASP. So get out there. You learn a lot just by hanging out with people who are interested in the same things that you are. Even if you yourself don't know a ton, you build these relationships with folks and start learning very quickly that way. Hobby projects, anything that's just interesting, like give it a shot, right? Like go out there and buy a cheap IoT device on Amazon and start picking it apart and just exploring the security aspects of it. Grab a Raspberry Pi and put together a Pi-hole server to cut down ads on your home network. I mean, just anything that's like technical and interesting. It's always great to get your hands dirty and actually try that stuff. Certs are a great starting point for people maybe who are a little bit newer to security, just to give a little bit of a leg up, try to get some you know, extra exposure and skill sets under their belt. But sometimes it can be tough. We get these folks who come in with a lot of great certifications, but they didn't spend a lot of time actually putting like hands on keyboard and trying stuff out. It was a lot of theoretical knowledge. So it's important to just kind of balance those things as you're learning and making sure that you're getting the practical exposure there too.
Yeah, I'm just going to do a little bit of plugging for cyber, but because of how few cybersecurity aspects are actually in our curriculum, the official school curriculum, like the networks kind of classes are really the only ones that even kind of go into there, with like CCDC and CPTC, which are defense and penetration testing competitions, and even with CTFs. That's really, you learn, we do learning up until that point, but once you actually get in there and like hands-on keyboard, it's a ton of experience that you learn very quickly. So those are great resources to use.
You guys also do a hack the box workshop at least once a year, don't you?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Lynn might have done that. But yeah, we have a ton of resources as well, like Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. I can put that in the chat in a minute, but great resources. There was actually a question in the chat that I saw as a UCI alumni who majored in criminology and law and society, is someone with no experience in cybersecurity, wondering how you can get into the cybersecurity field with criminology and law and society degree. And I also want to kind of just open this up to anything that's like non-CS degree, because I do think a lot of people here might be in CS, but a lot of people are interested who are not in CS, who do not have the technical skills. Like, how could they get into the cybersecurity field?
Well, I'll say that just in terms of like there are where the opportunities might be if you have criminology background or that's your degree, like there are teams or organizations that are specifically dealing with cybercrime. So I think that's an area that you may be able to get into and start to build your specialization maybe in cybersecurity and cybercrime there. There's also public policy, which is a space, right? So public policy, so laws and rules and regulations that companies and people need to follow. And there's a lot more attention these days on cybersecurity related laws, rules, regulations. And there's a need to really harmonize. So if there's state level rules and, every state is different, or even across different countries around the world, different countries have different standards. That becomes challenging, particularly for global companies or larger companies that cross state lines too. And so public policy is another area that you can get into and start to specialize in the cyberspace. So a couple of ideas for you, Tony, just when I think about, where criminology could potentially take you.
Another area that I think that could help as well is when I think of e-forensics, right? So e-forensics is something where, it's a little bit of criminology and a little bit of legal. Actually, you see a lot of law firms doing e-forensics type cases, whereby this is where, if you think of like the Enron, well, I don't know if many of you remember the Enron cases, or a lot of the fraud cases out there. What they'll do is they'll go through and they'll search through millions of email records to try to find that certain type of communication that might incriminate them, or maybe people trying to like delete or destroy evidence. And so they're really looking through the email, they're looking through your hard drive, they're recovering stuff that may have been deleted or tried to be destroyed from the memory. And so that one, I think, would play very nicely into this type of work, actually. And there are law firms out there that specialize in this. Some of the big fours, large four accounting firms have specialized practices in this as well. So I think those are good areas for you to explore. That would be a good fit with your background.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I think that's good.
Yeah, I actually, a few years back, I gave a talk at one of the local OWASP meetups that was specifically on this topic about breaching the cybersecurity industry as somebody who has no experience or is pivoting from a different career. So if it's okay with Caroline, I'll drop the GitHub link I have into the chat that has that slide deck if anybody's interested.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a question here specifically about OSCP and PNPT, but I think that is a little maybe too specific, and we'll be transitioning into breakout rooms here in a second or in a few minutes. So if you'd like to like re-ask that question in the specific breakout rooms, I think that would be a great place to talk about that. We're coming up here on the 45-minute mark, so we're going to be transitioning into that here in a minute. But one last like kind of general question before we do that is, do you have like any last minute insights that you'd like to give the students before we start going into specific breakout rooms?
Sure. So I'll say there is a huge demand for talent for cybersecurity. It's an industry that has negative employment, if you will, right? So there's more demand than there is supply, which really creates a lot of opportunity. And diverse security teams are very important, right? The adversaries that we're trying to protect and defend against they're not cut from the same cloth. They're very creative, always changing, very dynamic. And so having teams that are made up of people from different backgrounds, different skill sets, different ways of thinking are really, really important to having a strong security program. And so I would say if you're interested, pursue that interest. And again, there are so many different paths you can take. You can start, some companies have rotation programs, so you can try different parts of a security program. That's pretty cool. You can have, 3 different jobs in a couple of years and see which one you want to pursue longer term. So I say, go try it out. There's such a demand for talent, and you'll find a great career path ahead.
I would reiterate some of that, but what I think, a lot of it, like I said before, it's a lot more about your personality or your drive. I think as someone entering cybersecurity, I would say myself, and I know a lot of my colleagues at my company, we're looking more about that personality who has the drive, the excitement, the willingness to learn, the ability to learn, more so than any technical skill you could know, because everything else we can teach. It's that really that drive and that we're looking for, that eagerness. So I said, if you're interested in it, I said, don't give it up, just keep trying. Many of us get inundated with calls, and so we're not always responsive, but I think if you're persistent enough, I think you'll eventually get your foot in the door.
I would say join the Cyber UCI Discord, go meet Sam in real life, check out one of their workshops, because it's going to be really informative, and you're going to be able to really tell if you actually like this stuff and if it's something you want to pursue. Is just kind of jumping in and trying it, especially now while you're still in school. So get out there and join Cyber UCI.
Mhm.
Yeah, security field's difficult to get into to start. So don't be discouraged if you are having trouble landing that job you really want right out of the gate. You might have to build up your skills over a couple years in a tangential field. Maybe you do a little software development. Maybe you do some IT work. All those are good skill sets to have to get into security. And you might just have to kind of get some of that base foundational knowledge in place first before you make the jump into security specifically. If you happen to land an internship, awesome. That's a great way to get in the door for that field. But you'll start to see, when you're looking at job postings, entry level, 3-4 years of experience, you're kind of like, well, okay, that's not quite entry level, but I guess that's what they're calling entry level these days. So it can be tough. Don't be discouraged. Just keep at it. You'll get there. You just might take a little while.
Thank you all so much. This concludes the more formal Q&A portion of our event, but I just, on behalf of myself, Sam, all the participants, thank you all so much. I learned a ton. I appreciate all the really specific resources and advice and insights and just sharing your own personal journey. So I'm grateful for all of you. And so before